Okay, we are live. New? Live. Oh, here we are. So I'm willing to take some questions now. Can answer things about the photosynthesis paper, or I can answer things about nutrient cycling or energy flows. And I finished designing the modeling assessment, which did change a little bit from what I said, but I think it'll be good. Hi, Kylie. Still at school because I'm getting ready because I'm going to be gone for the next 2 days, and I won't be here to help you out. So I'm getting some things in place so that they're ready for that. So for the test tomorrow, though, good question, Alvin. The test tomorrow is going to involve nutrient cycling. It is asking you to create a model of both photosynthesis and the cycling of nutrients in a system through the biotic and the abiotic system. So if you want a quick snapshot of what it's going to look like, let me show you right here. So we're going to share my screen and share that with you right now. So you can see right now that I am editing the assignment. And what you can see, it says create a graphic model, not a stock and flow map. So I've changed my mind from that. So you're going to do something more graphical. You can draw pictures, use arrows and that kind of thing to show the cycling of matter and the flow of energy between biotic and abiotic systems. So remember, biotic are the living systems, and the abiotic are the non-living systems. So abiotic would be things such as feces or poop. It would be water, the deep ocean, the atmosphere, and those types of things. And then biotic would be living animals and plants. Be sure to include how photosynthesis in plants play a key role. So that key role is that plants are the gatekeepers. In order for things to enter into the biotic system, you must go through a plant. For example, in order for carbon to get into living things, plants absorb that carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and then they use it for photosynthesis. Well, that carbon's now inside of the plant. Then some consumer, an herbivore, primary consumer, will eat that plant, and now the carbon's in them, right? So plants are the gateway to getting nutrients and elements into the biotic system. And then you want to figure out how do they get out of the biotic system and back into the abiotic system, and that might be through feces or poop. Once again, that might be through the death of the animal and then being absorbed into the soil or different things. So you'll need to be able to model that and show those different things. The next thing it says is, what are all the components of your system? So I want you to define your system. I want you to define its boundaries and kind of specify some of those things. Give me a second. I want to check and just see what you guys are saying. All right, I'll talk about the nitrogen cycle shortly as well. All right, let me finish looking at the assessment though. Now in your model, it says include photosynthesis, and you'll see that I have, let's see if I can draw, can I? Note. It's not going to let me. All right. So you'll see that I have the keywords for photosynthesis, for cellular respiration, this idea of interdependence, energy flow, and matter flow. Those keywords are things that you should use for labeling, for expressing what should be in the model, things that you should know about. All right. Am I going to look for absolutely every single one of those words? Not necessarily, but I am going to be looking for a majority of those words, and those are things that are going to key you in to what you should be talking about and expressing in your model. Once again, make sure you use different colors for energy and matter. Make sure that this is a cycle. Cycle means circle, so show that. And then the third part is that write your understanding of the process. So this is where you explain. So I shouldn't just have pictures, but I should have explanations about what's going to take place. Now, one thing about this, if you have time, you're welcome to color it. But I am not expecting that you color the model. Just due to time constraints, I'm more concerned that you have it done or use a light color or just in places that it's really going to help. So like if you draw a bunny, I really don't care that you color the bunny brown, but maybe you make sure that in the arrows you have blue arrows that show the traveling of nutrients or matter, and you use yellow arrows or orange arrows to show the flowing of energy. So that might be a really important and key coloring to do. So prioritize what you do. I'm not looking for full color. I'm looking for understanding of knowledge. All right. So people wanted to see, I think people said they also wanted to see the nitrogen cycle. So let's try and take a look at that. One moment. Oh, and explanations for the explanations for the model. I mean, I would expect it to be maybe a paragraph or so. I mean, think about when you had to do the quiz on you know, the person was buried and to get to the hawk. That took you probably about a paragraph. So there might be 2 paragraphs to write or so. I'm not looking for another essay. I'm not. I'm looking for some brief explanations to make sure there's clarity in what you've drawn, and then I'm not guessing. All right. I don't want to be guessing about what your work is. Now, for the nitrogen cycle, then let's look at the nitrogen cycle. Let me pull up a picture. I'm learning how to use some of this. And so, oh, what's the cameraman? Oh, I don't need that. All right, so I want to pull up the nitrogen cycle. So just give me a moment. Nope. Here we go. This is what I want to see. View image. If I copy it, can I just? Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to the model should have both energy and matter in the food cycle. So now let me flip over and share with you why is I not able to? Oh, my entire screen. All right, my entire screen works. That's going to broadcast something strange. You're probably seeing all my windows. So yeah, let's pull this up. Okay, so now we're going to look at the nitrogen cycle, and I can draw on it. Excellent. So here in the nitrogen cycle, the best place to always start is looking right here at atmospheric nitrogen. And this is kind of, you notice this is N2, all right? So nitrogen is found, just like oxygen has 2 molecules, nitrogen has 2 atoms, my mistake, has 2 atoms with it as well. And so the other thing that we definitely want to point out big key to the nitrogen cycle is that if you look here and here, all right, you see that there's bacteria kind of bookending the entrance. And so you see from the atmosphere into the cycle, and even down here into the cycle, you'll find there's bacteria. This bacteria at the entrance is what makes the nitrogen usable. All right? The nitrogen can't be used by anything that's living if you don't have that bacteria there at the start. Now, whoops, I want this to stay bigger. Now, I don't expect you to know, you don't need to know about the rhizobium, the azobacter, right? But what you do need to see is that also right here, right, all these little nodules, and I'll even outline them right there. That probably wasn't too helpful. But all these little nodules right here, this is a symbiotic relationship, okay? This relationship, it benefits the bacteria and it benefits the plant. It's mutualistic. And the bacteria attach directly to the root system so that the plants can directly take the nitrogen in, right? So they're kind of like their own little personal nitrogen adjusters for the plant to make sure that works. Then other options is that nitrogen gets transformed in some different things. Ammonium can be found in your pee. So that's one form. When things break down, you get a lot of ammonium there. And then they turn into nitrites and then nitrates. Now, I'm not expecting you to remember those words, but if you do, bonus points. Then when it's finally time for them to exit, you'll notice once again, you have those bacteria there. And those bacteria are they do what we call denitrify. And they allow the nitrogen to turn back into N2 and go back into the atmosphere, because NO3 is not atmospheric nitrogen, so it won't be there. So you notice two major entrance points is that it's going to be through the plants, and that's the only way into the living, but the other entrance point might be through the decomposers, but that's not living anymore, all right? That is dead things. They're becoming abiotic. They're turning back into the soil. They're being broken down into their original matter. So that's the nitrogen cycle. Any questions about that? Let me go stop screen sharing, because otherwise that gets funky, and take a look at what you have to say. So how long? The model will definitely be on paper. It's a lot easier for you guys to draw on paper. And the essay, there's not a length on the essay. The essay is about requirement. Always, always, always meet the requirements. I'm always less concerned about the length and more concerned about the content. If the content is good, then you'll do well. Now, the map, it can be like the WISE thing. That's definitely an option as far as doing the model. You could also draw something more of like a small ecosystem and then label different components and draw arrows showing the connections. How you model it is up to you. I'm going to be a lot more open. If you chose to use a stock and flow map because you thought that was going to be the best method to help you out, that would totally be fine too. But I'm not expecting you to use a specific method. But I think a graphical approach is probably going to be what's best for you. Now, and not like a food web. It should probably be more looking like an ecosystem. But like Arshia asked, something more like what you saw in the WISE activity, that also could be good as well. I think I saw Kylie had a question that I missed. Oh, you answered all the requirements with the detail in today's portion of the essay. How can you expand on all of the requirements tomorrow? My original writing was only 2 paragraphs. All right. So how can you make it longer? You're saying it's only 2 paragraphs. How should it be longer? I'll use the first one as an example. If you looked at evidence number 1, all right, evidence number 1, you should have found focused on you should have found that it focused on oxygen, all right? And you would have seen this because if you looked at the chart, let me see if I can pull up the chart. One moment. You got to go open up the document. Sorry, it's taking just a moment, but I want to be able to show you what I'm talking about so that way we both have a clear image of what's going on. All right, so almost there. All right. No, why is it being a pain? Okay, so I'm gonna switch my screen over once again, application in the window. Looking at that right there, I'm gonna share that. All right, what you can see now is the first evidence. And so this particular evidence, once again, you should have noticed it had a focus on oxygen. Now, you might have just, if you only said plants need oxygen, and then you said, and we can see that in the chart because when they put the plant in the jar with the mouse, the plant stayed alive. You're right. You're not going to have a lot to say. But what you need to do is that you realize that what you looked at in the chart is actually, I think I found my pen. Screen sketch. All right. What you found, let me see if that's even broadcasting properly. Ooh, I also need to plug in because I'm going to run out of battery power. Let me move to a different location so that my battery doesn't die on us. All right. I also don't know. So I want to see if this actually, oh, darn it, that's not working. No. Ooh, I do know. I think I can do this. Oh, no, I can't. All right. So what you're looking at, sorry, I kind of got a little off track. It's not important if they disliked it. So what you can see is that for you, Kylie, instead of just saying that because the mouse was in there with the plant, the mouse live longer, that's just the raw piece of evidence. You want to make a stronger connection between the evidence and between the claim. And so your claim is that plants produce oxygen in photosynthesis. The evidence is that the mouse lived longer with the plant in the jar. So we can expand on that. So our expansion is going to be, well, what we notice when we look at the data in the table is that the plant was fine for 4 hours by itself, But candles we know need oxygen in order for the flame to continue burning. But after 20 minutes, the candle burned out. And mice breathe oxygen as well. And mice need oxygen to live. And when the mouse was put underneath the jar by itself, after 25 minutes, it fainted, and probably because it ran out of oxygen. Then we see that even more quickly, the candle and the mouse together, they consume the oxygen even faster. And so they both only lasted 10 minutes together. But when we put the candle and the plant together, we saw that after 2 hours, the candle was still lit. This suggests that something was adding oxygen to the environment to allow the candle to keep burning. And in the same way, the mouse, after 3 hours, had not fainted. This must mean that we've added something to the environment that increases the oxygen so that the mouse stays awake. The one thing that was consistent between those two last experiments was that we added a plant. This suggests then, or shows that plants produce oxygen after photosynthesis, which allowed the candle to stay burning and the mouse to stay awake. So this would be what I would suggest. That kind of conversation would expand your writing, would expand the depth of what you're talking about, because you're really diving into the evidence that is being presented and flushing out all the different nuances and pieces that are being shown to you through the chart or through the writing in the data. All right. So that's what you would find there. Let's close this page. All right, so we're going to stop that. All right, so I'm back. Yep. All right, so a graphical approach for tomorrow's part of the test. Yeah, so a graphical approach. So a graphical approach could be something that looks like the nitrogen cycle diagram that I showed you. A graphical approach, when you did your photosynthesis foldables, while those aren't comprehensive enough, those don't show enough information, that would be a graphical approach. Most of you drew a flower, or you drew maybe a dog breathing or something like that. And so that gives a graphic. Once you're going, okay, the dog breathes out carbon dioxide, but the dog's also breathing in oxygen. So that would be a graphical approach to this, to showing those types of information. All right. Once again, then you include arrows. Another time we would have done a graphical approach, like your comic strips are types of graphical approaches. When you designed your desalination systems last year and you labeled all that, that was a graphical approach to doing it versus a literary approach where you wrote everything. So that's what, when I say graphic, I mean pictures. And once again, I'm not looking for full color. I'm not looking for works of art. Use color where it will help. Okay, use color where it will help differentiate things. For example, if you're tracing the flow of energy, use one color for the arrows that help you trace the flow of energy. And then you're tracing the flow of matter, use a different color arrow, so like a blue for matter and an orange arrow for energy, to show the two different types of things that you're tracking. All right. Maybe you want to talk about photosynthesis differently than the other parts because you want to emphasize photosynthesis' key role in the ability for nutrients and energy to cycle in and out of the biotic and abiotic systems. And so you use green maybe for everything related to photosynthesis, and you use other colors for matter and energy when you're not talking about photosynthesis. Maybe you have some knowledge, and so you want to highlight particularly what carbon does versus what nitrogen does, and so you spend a little bit of time highlighting carbon with a specific color, and you highlight nitrogen with a different color, right? So focus on using color when it's beneficial and valuable. Don't color everything. I'm not looking for works of art here. I'm looking for understanding in your expression of your model. So if I'm looking through this, it is about 5:30. This is about what I said I would do. I'm looking for a few last questions. And yes, Utkarsh, definitely you're showing how things are relying on one another. I mean, so even think about how when we talked about bunnies eat grass, so as the grass increases, the amount of bunnies can increase, and then the amount of foxes can increase. This all has to do with energy. And then as the bunnies increase, they eat a lot of grass, so there's less energy available, so the number of bunnies decrease. And as the bunnies decrease because they're getting eaten by foxes and they don't have food, the foxes decrease because there's less energy. Always be thinking about things in terms of the flow of energy and matter as you're designing your model and as you're giving your explanations, okay? Your explanation absolutely, absolutely, absolutely must talk about energy, energy, energy. Do not give me answers that don't talk about energy. Don't give me answers that talk about because the predator at the top doesn't get eaten. Don't give me answers that just say there's no more than 5 links in the food chain. Explain it through the terms of energy and how you understand the limited amounts of energy are what determine how reproduction happens, that determine the numbers of populations, that the limited amount of energy determines how photosynthesis happens. More energy for photosynthesis, more photosynthesis takes place. So if you keep a plant in a dark room, it's going to be small. If you allow a plant to grow in the light, it's going to be able to grow nice and big. All right. So energy is a limiter. All right. We need to make sure you're showing that. Another question that I saw, is there anyone else here at school? No, there is no one else here, Kylie. Well, I mean, there's the janitors or the custodians, but most of the teachers have gone home, so they're not really around. You do not need to use claim evidence reasoning for the second part, for the modeling. Just some basic paragraphs explaining what you've drawn here and why you've drawn it that way, and how it helps you show the flow of energy and the conservation of matter that's flowing around. I got to be honest, Alvin, I have not looked at any of the memes because I've been focused on answering your questions, but I appreciate your commitment to one of our class themes of memes everywhere. Okay. Tessa, the best thing to do, or Anna, to know about what to do or draw or write about in the model would be to go back and watch this broadcast. You can actually watch from the beginning, even though it's not live at the beginning. You can watch from the beginning, and I talked about what goes into it. I went over in detail the components of the project that are listed on Canvas and will be on Canvas for you to access tomorrow in class. And Rui, photosynthesis takes place in the palisade mesophyll. That would be the layer of tissue in the leaf. Remember, in your guided notes from when we took photosynthesis notes, there is a whole front and back of notes on photosynthesis, and you have a very large graphic showing you all the different layers of plant cells, and then you can and then those you can dive into the palisade mesophyll, and there you'll find the chloroplast, which are the organelles that photosynthesis takes place in. And then if you dive even further into the chloroplast, you will find the chlorophyll. And the chlorophyll, remember, chlorophyll capture the light, and chlorophyll are the pigment. They're the reason why it's green, because plants reflect green light and they absorb the red and the blue, particularly the red and the blue, which helps them grow the most. And then the final small little tidbit that I see, Evan, we can definitely do some more of these in the future. And Kylie, the sub tomorrow is Mr. Lucas. And then your sub on Friday is a gentleman named Mr. McCoy. I'm not familiar with him, but I know you all like Mr. Lucas quite a bit. So you'll have him, all right? So if you need me while I'm gone, always your best bet is to try to reach me on Canvas. Discussions, or send me a message in my inbox. You can send me an email directly. I'll try my best to get back to you as quick as possible. So I might be able to get back to you during class. I might not. It just depends. All right. So I hope you all have a wonderful spring break. I'm gonna miss seeing all your faces, but it's going to be nice to have some time. I hope you all get to do something really exciting and fun. Utkarsh, that is up to you. You can show as much detail. The more detail, the better. But as long as you show the concepts asked for in Canvas, it'll be fine. And Kylie, Friday, depending upon where everyone is with their assessment, you might want more time than what you have tomorrow to finish a paper and to do the model. So Friday, you can either finish the model, and depending upon how many people are still working on the model on Friday, you'll be able to watch a movie. Remember, periods on Friday are only 35 minutes long, so there's not a lot of time on Friday. Because already minimum day, you get out at noon, and then also on Friday, at the end of the day, there is there's a brief party in the park with that. And if anyone's in my 5th period, that'd be like Tessa. If you would help the sub on Friday pass out the gold, silver, and bronze awards, because they probably have no idea who anyone is, but if you help them get those out during homeroom period, that'd be fantastic. All right. With that, I'm signing off, and I will see you guys when I get back, or I'll see you on Instagram if you're there too. All right. Take care.